Easthampton, Niagara.
We'll find some guy a little bit. 4 p.m.
Hey,
Way shorter than
gentlemen,
it's okay.
Carrie. Thank you.
You need the gavel.
I know I need my gavel. All right, so I'm starting the July 17th CPA meeting. It is 6:30. Hi, Jenny. It's okay. So the first thing is minutes from last month. Yeah, it's on. Does anybody have questions, comments, minutes from last month? Everybody got them?
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Everybody okay?
Aye.
Fantastic. Jamie, do you want to go through account balances or do you want to wait until the end?
So the accounts have not fully closed yet from the previous, I mean, they're closed, but they haven't been reflected in the system.
Is that why you're here?
No. So we have the total numbers, but they haven't been moved into the set-asides yet.
Okay.
So the set-asides are gonna sound low because they're still last fiscal years.
Right.
And those are 52 cents for open space,
Sweet.
36,265 for historic preservation,
Okay.
77,312 for affordable housing, 235,365 for reserve, and then 1.6 million in the undesignated. So when those accounts close,
Okay.
the money from the undesignated will go and make the new set-asides, but
Yeah.
it's all currently being held in the
Okay.
account. So the total is 2 million,
Even?
roughly.
Okay.
Give or take.
Valerie just ran the last fiscal 14 warrant on the 15th, so it does take her a little time to
while.
close all the funds.
Okay.
So I'm sure by next meeting that will be done. She's actually pretty far ahead of schedule, but it does take us a little time.
Okay.
This doesn't include the final state match either, does it, for next year? That's in the budget?
We don't
The
know what
actual
the state
numbers.
match will be.
Yeah, and that's the 25 million they just put in this year's state budget.
Right, we won't know about that till probably
Right.
after the new year is when it came out
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah, and the 25 million is if there's money after they already, so the first 25 million of the surplus goes to something else, the second 25 million goes to CPA, and then,
Oh,
so if there's 50 million, CPA will get 25. If there's 45 million, CPA will get 20. So it depends on when the state closes their books, how much goes to the CPA. And we won't know that till November.
Everybody else good? Yes. I'm gonna suggest that we move the preservation plan discussion until after the application, because I think most folks are here to talk about the application and they want to be nice. Is that okay? Everybody?
That's great.
Great. So the main order of business is the City of Easthampton and City Space application. It's a 100.
There's someone here for public speak. I
Oh.
don't know if you want to do that after.
I might do it after. Or rather I will. It's a $117,000 ask out of the historic preservation bucket. It's for renovations. I'm assuming everybody saw the application. So I'm gonna open up for discussion and I think we have plenty of folks in the room that can answer questions.
Is there an extra copy of the application?
No.
No.
thank you.
So go ahead, folks. Questions?
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't studied this whole thing yet, so I'd like to hear the pitch.
Is anybody here who wants to give your quick rundown of what you're asking for and why?
Sure. Well, I think the pitch started at your last meeting.
Yes.
That we, yeah, and my name's Ed Check. I'm the president of City Space, and there's several other board members here from City Space. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure.
Marcia Morrison.
I'm Burns Maxey.
Carol Smith.
Jean-Pierre Pache. Matt Duty.
And consultant.
Thank you.
We, you know, we were telling you at the last meeting how City Space has just been growing and growing, and the improvements to the building have been great. We concentrated on getting into the first floor when we first started, and now we have tenants on that floor. Some of our other projects were to do the signage for the exterior to get people in, get the community in. We then hired Wade, who's sitting back there, to do the architectural lighting, and we had all the towers lit up at night. And so the progression of these different projects is to get to the second floor. That's our ultimate mission, is to get that second floor open, because it's a terrific room, and we know that there's a demand for it in this community and the surrounding communities. I guess I want to say between the downstairs and the upstairs this is the link. The link is the lobby, and the lobby has not been renovated. And I wouldn't even know the last time it was renovated. You can tell by when you walk in there. There's this terrible storefront aluminum doors, and we would like to replace them with something more historical to what was there originally. There's a bad linoleum floor in the lobby. The paints are peeling from all the tin ceiling and walls that are there. The bathrooms for both the men's and the women's restrooms are in terrible condition, and we truly do need that. It's for the amount of people who walk into that building, we really do need a renovation to the restrooms. So when we received our grant from the tourism grant for $133,000, we were sort of brainstorming and realized that if we had more money, hopefully from CPA, that we could really do the entire lobby area. We weren't initially going to, we had a bucket list, and we knew we couldn't have everything that we wanted. But with this additional funds that we're requesting, we realized that we can get many of the things that we wanted. That again is the link to getting us upstairs. An example of that is just if we can afford it, possibly finishing the sprinkler system that's in the second floor room. All of the major plumbing has gone up to the second floor. There is a sprinkler system on the first floor and basement, but it was never finished. They never finished the project to the second floor. So that's just an example of how we might use this extra money if we get it.
Well,
You wanna add anything?
sure. I'll add to that the application for this was really specifically for the additional funds that weren't asked for or given to us as part of the grant from the state. Those funds are we're working closely, obviously it's a city-owned building, so we're working with the city on this project. It's really a joint project right now. Melissa is here to answer any questions on the city's behalf. We didn't take into account some things such as the possibility of asbestos removal. The flooring might require that hazardous waste removal, as well as additional funds towards a designer. We had attributed $5,000 originally, and it's going to cost at least $15,000. So it's, I believe, 10% of the outcome of the project. We have selected a designer for the project who's going to give us a budget. They're working on it. I believe August 15th is when they will will begin to release the RFP, is that correct? And that will have a breakdown of the budget numbers required for this. So we have the initial budget numbers that were given to us by an architect that were given to the state, and then we're coming back and saying, okay, there's a few things that we didn't take into account that we need to for this project. So that's where the additional funds go towards for the $117,000.
And I'd also like to add that we interviewed 6 design firms before we selected the one that we selected. So RPS went out, and then we invited them all in.
So, if I take all of this into account, is these numbers from Kalo and Beanick that you have in here now?
Yes.
are his estimates, but nothing has gone out to bid yet, and you won't really know what it is until your final design. Right now, you're making the final design, and that's going out to bid to a general. And
That's when we
you're
will
gonna
have
a real number.
the specific numbers, the real breakdown that we can come back to you and say, these are the numbers. So our cap is really the 250,000. We're not gonna come back to you and ask you for more for this specific project. So we're coming to you and saying, okay, we wanna get our application in, please review this. We'd like to come back to you with our breakdown of the numbers that the designer offers.
And what would be a good idea when they come with your numbers, if they could compartmentalize the numbers, in other words, break it into projects, so that if need be, we could break, like if you come in, you're $251,000 and you're a little bit short, and rather than take something out, we would know the impact of removing a section of that and be able to weigh the options of perhaps.
Well, I was gonna say, Fargo, that, I did ask Burns to come in kind of before we were ready, because part of what we're gonna have to do, based on the fact that we don't know, what the CPA is gonna decide, is that we have to bid it with alternates that we can add or remove from the overall bid. We'd like to bid it out as one project, because to us it is, but there are some larger ticket items that will be alternates that, if we don't have the funding, that are the first to go, because they're easy to separate and they'll get us back to a number of what we do have in hand. And I will say that, they did have the architect estimate. I'm not sure if those estimates are several years old, and I also don't know if they considered the fact that because this is a municipal building, it goes to procurement law, we were required to hire a designer, we were required to do the bid, and we're required to pay prevailing wages, and that changes, as you know, the cost and scope of the project often. And then the historical stuff, we want the doors especially, we want to maintain the historic nature of the property, and, putting historic doors on is more expensive than insulating the current doors. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, okay.
And so the sprinkler estimates aren't in here. Is that something that you're really considering?
That was for the next phase, really?
Yes.
So I think that's what you were speaking to. Right?
Yeah. It is not in there, no.
The design has been done on that sprinkler system, though,
It has.
It has been, yeah.
Because we had appropriated money for that years and years ago.
Well, I think it's capped off, it's been run up to the second floor and
Yeah.
it's capped off.
Right.
But
Yeah,
actually,
exactly.
it runs above the ceiling, that just didn't drop it.
Oh, okay, so it's just the drops aren't there on the second floor.
Exactly.
So when we originally pitched this grant to the state, it was for use of the public, and that's where the restrooms especially come in, because as we mentioned at the prior meeting, these are community use bathrooms, and they're the only public facilities. The next one over, the safety complex, I believe. So, this project has a multitude of sides to it. It has a public benefit as well as use of the space for those that are in the building, and community use for those that are coming in and utilizing the other businesses and organizations that are there.
Yeah.
Harry's got one. I don't know much about restoring buildings or anything, but I've had somebody try to explain to me how come a couple of doors cost 45 grand. To me, you can build a whole house for about 100 probably, so how come 45 doors? How many doors are we talking about? 1 door, 2 doors, 4 doors?
No, well, I'll tell you why, because we're dealing with the Massachusetts Historical Commission, and they have to approve it.
What is
Because
it made out of? Made out of oak or something, or?
It's the preservation rules in Massachusetts are very strict, and, they are expensive, I agree with you, but it is because of the commission's standards.
And it's gotta be 8 doors in the front there.
It's huge
They're huge
doors,
doors.
it's not like a door like this, it's
Yeah.
a huge door,
Yeah.
the whole front of the building.
What kind of building?
Yeah.
I'm just curious, just curious. That's all.
No, it's a good- you're right.
Go to Home Depot and even look at some of them doors. They pay $4,000 or $5,000 for a door for your house.
Right, yeah, I was just curious as to why, so.
Good question.
You led in a little bit with talking about this as an entree to the second floor, and I know the aesthetic gain for sure, and the functional gain too of that space will be enormous. But talk to me about how contingent the second floor use is upon. I mean, is there any accessibility or any, can you use the second floor right now? Is there anything that's stopping you from using it in the lobby's current?
To our knowledge, we cannot use the second floor because of code.
ADA compliance.
Yeah.
Which is,
There's no elevator.
there's no elevator.
You got that
sprinkler
fancy
system.
chairlift.
So that's fire code
That was my
issue.
curiosity, is if you had a code issue with the
Absolutely.
second floor use right now,
Yeah.
so.
The second floor is about, the last time I think it was discussed with architects, was about a $3.1 million project. So that's a more aggressive project that we're looking forward to in the future. And I think that'll take on grant writing, capital campaign project, and perhaps coming back to the CPA as well. But we haven't broken down that structure yet of what that's gonna look like, because we're focusing right now on the second, the lobby area. Just because it's such a, we have so many people that come through the space currently and utilize the space, and that's the first thing they see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as we approach people and ask for money, when we bring them to the building, we want to show off the lobby. Say, look at what we did, and now imagine what we can do upstairs. I mean, it is part of the selling of it. I think when you walk in it now, it's pretty sad looking,
Well, there are also events that occur in that lobby.
Yeah.
For instance, one of the major fundraising events for Easthampton City Arts Plus, which a lot of things come out of, as you know, takes place in that lobby as part of what it does. And so you walk in, and we've disguised it with as many twinkling stars and lights and glitter as we can, but it is still the way it is, so.
And also that, right now, that's the way to access the second floor. There are two large stairwells there. And so there is visible, you can see that there is a second floor from there. And that is the place that you know that there's a second floor. And that's where you see, oh, well, if we could get up there, it doesn't look inviting, and it's not, because it's in need of some TLC.
Where's Flywheel?
Well, it was in the back of the building,
The back?
where the police station used to be.
Oh, the old police station.
Please go ahead.
I just had a couple of, obviously, we just got this, and I read through it, and a lot of the questions have been answered, but there was a sentence in there that most of the, I'm the type, I'll take a walk through there between now and the thing is, I know the bathrooms are horrendous, unless somebody's upgraded them since the last time. That much. But there was a small mention in that most of the renovations would be done in public space. And I guess, whatever you say, most is in public, can you tell me what's in the private space?
Well, we're extending it so that when you see the top of the stairs on the second floor, that would be a non-public space currently because you can't technically go upstairs. So there's that, and then there's the entree into the lobby, which is a public space in the sense that it's not in one of the business spaces or the organization.
So when you say non-public, like the second, it's not like it's a private space?
No,
It's just
not.
that
It's
it's
an
not gonna
unused-
be,
it's an
it's
unused
a public
space
space that the
right now.
public will not have access to.
Right.
Yeah.
I should have chosen my words
Right.
better,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, that clears that
Yeah.
up. Yeah, I understood what you said, it was just,
Right.
I just wanted to make sure that was.
Absolutely.
And then the other question I have two, actually. The grant doesn't have any match into it. So in other
Match
words, if we.
requirement.
Right, match requirement. So if we didn't give you anything, you still get the 133.
We
Yes.
get the 133,
Yes.
but it would put a limitation.
No, I realize that,
Yeah.
but sometimes they have you have to get them back or
Absolutely,
something.
yeah,
So,
that's.
But this one is,
This was a one-time grant supposedly.
Mhm.
I don't know if they're planning on doing it again yet. So it was,
And-
it's not a match grant.
Is there a time limit to use it, or?
By December.
By
The end of
December.
December, so it's a very aggressive project that's why we moved so quickly, and thankfully, working with Melissa and the mayor and Jessica Allen on the project, we've been able to move it forward very quickly.
You forfeit the funds in December if they're not expended, is that?
Does the project just need to be started, or does it need to be completed?
I mean, this has to be approved, I would assume.
Well,
Well,
the
go ahead.
original application did say that it all had to be spent by December, and that we have, we still want to work on that plan. I did talk to the state because they were so late in releasing it.
Right.
It is possible
Right.
for us to get an extension, but, we're just trying to keep moving forward on the original timeline. But we can get an extension. I talked to the state.
So this original plan line is to finish this project by December
It's going to be
31st.
very difficult to do that, but yes, that was the original, the grant was written that we must be finished and spent by December 31st. Last week, I was told that we could, because it was released so late, that we could have an extension. But we talked to the architects about that, because when we put out the RFP to the architects, they were on that timeline, so their schedule is on that timeline, and, their assignment to us is on that timeline. So, luckily, we can, put it a little later in the winter, and that won't be a problem for losing the funds, but that's why we're moving so fast, and why we're putting this before you, before we know, because we didn't want to lose the money, and until last week, we weren't sure.
So that means that we would have to get this done in the August funding cycle.
So you need to have those bids done by.
We're gonna put the bids out, like I said, with alternates in them, so that if you don't award it, we cut the project in half, essentially.
Melissa, would you say it would have to be spent by, or the project completed, would the CPA part of the funding have to be? In other words, you're starting with 133, so I mean, I assume the architect's all gonna come out of that, or can come out of that.
Right, it is.
So as long as the 133 is spent, I would assume you would be, I mean, there's no
That's-
requirement to spend the city money, I wouldn't think.
No, it's just a matter of, trying to capitalize on one.
I know you want one, yeah, I know you want it to flow, I was just saying.
And also,
I mean, you might eat up a good part of that 133 by the
Right.
first.
Yeah, and also I think we don't want to do, if we knew that we were going to have funds, we would do certain projects. If we weren't going to have funds, we might do up to a certain point, and then to start them again, we'd have to take something down and start over. We're just trying to use the money wisely, and if you do it twice, it costs a lot more. Because you have to bid it twice and advertise it twice, and then, start and stop of construction.
Right, which is a concern, obviously, since we have businesses in the building, like Big Red Frame, that have a constant flow of customers. When Reinhardt and Designs, we talked to them about moving the project forward, and they said they could expedite, the process, and that the closing of the public spaces, getting through in and out of the building, it shouldn't take long. It should take about 4 to 5 days. To clean out the potential hazardous, not the whole project, that would be amazing.
One of the reasons why we selected them is because they had so much experience with dealing with the historical commission, and that was great. They knew exactly what we were talking about with all of their codes and restrictions.
They did the public safety complex, I think.
They also did some work on the town hall building at one point.
Yeah.
They did the front steps.
Yeah, they supported it from the basement.
Given that your estimates are from a while ago, and, Harry's concerned about the doors, I mean, the doors might even be more expensive now. Do you have a list of, what would you do, if you run out, I'd assume the doors are, if I get it, the doors are probably number one, the bathrooms number two but the flooring, I mean.
Well, they're doing testing right now as far as what are the hazardous materials are in the building, so I think that might answer some of our questions as far as, what's necessary, how much that'll cost, what that'll take away from. We did talk about the doors potentially being, a project that we could do in a next phase if we needed to, if we don't have enough funds, but it really would be a shame not to include those, because I think the Historic Commission would really love to see that, because it restores it back to its original look from the exterior, not just the interior.
Are there any ancient pictures of doors that were originally on?
Oh, we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
I don't know if I have any in
I don't
here.
know
I
if
just
there
sent
are
one
any.
the designer.
We have
They were huge.
There's a great, it's the Easthampton baseball team sitting on the steps.
Yeah.
And you see the original
I
doors.
didn't see that.
You know how big the doors are? In that other, in the other grant application, if you have it, one that we did. No?
I didn't see it. So we know what the doors are supposed to look like.
Yeah, we have that research.
So they're currently testing them, assuming for lead and asbestos.
Correct, they came this morning.
Okay. Do you know when you'll have the results?
They said about a week or two that we would have results as to, you know, like we have to have a plan from them, and then we can hire someone to do the abatement, and I know that it won't, I don't know what they discovered today, but also part of what they were gonna look at was, any of the plumbing that might be wrapped, because we are gonna do
Right.
a bathroom project and heating potentially, so.
Okay.
So there may be that, and we just didn't even think about that originally.
Yeah.
But you're right, the doors are easy to separate, and so unfortunately, they're one of the first things that we're gonna have is an alternate thing, because they're a big ticket item, and they're easy to separate, where you can't do half a bathroom. but
Right.
You can
You can do-
existing doors the way they are, you know.
Yeah.
You remember those?
No, they're just a little.
I think I was on one of those baseball teams.
They were painted. They were painted when I was a kid. They weren't in as good a condition. That's why they had to replace them with the aluminum doors.
I just have one more question. Most of the time, we're always looking for, you know, like, the organization to provide something, and obviously you're providing a grant. Do you have a contingent, like fundraising contingent? I mean, obviously, you're looking to the future of a $3 million, and that would be a big
Right.
thing, so, but if, you know, in other words, would you consider any type of fundraiser if you're short, or the CPA doesn't decide? I mean, we could, you know, we could give you everything you asked for, we could give you part of what you asked for, and none of what you asked for, but I just, if you have any
Sure,
contingent, you know,
If you look in the application here, it states how much city space is already given to the
Given,
building.
I know, right,
that-
you know you
that-
put a lot in.
That city space doesn't own. I mean, city space manages the building, whether it's the lighting or the renovation of the lobby. So for this step, we're really hoping that the CPA will support it fully. And then the next step, you know, we're really looking to doing a lot of work on our end as far as raising the funds for the second floor. So, you know, we're hoping for that. Do you want to speak to that?
Well, no, I think
I think-
that's accurate. Yeah.
I really think this is a perfect project for the CPA.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have a great building on our hands, and we'd love to see a sign outside that says CPA,
Oh,
you
well, we
know.
require
Oh,
Right,
that,
I
so.
know, I know, but maybe even like a permanent plaque or something that
Finally.
has something on there. that-
Bronze with our name.
We'd have to add that to the application.
You have to talk to the
first.
historical society about that.
Something artistic.
That will
Oh,
only be the
if
second
you
thing.
put it
to do, right?
inside the door,
No
then
problem.
there's no problem with historical society.
Danny,
That's all Friday for now.
that end of the table?
I guess my biggest comment,
Please.
and it's really just a comment, is I'm struck by the timing component of this, especially with the grant and at least the initial parameters of the grant and trying to get the project up and running, because August is obviously next month. So, yeah, and there's a
City council.
yeah, exactly,
Mayoral
sort of
road.
steps between.
We're a slow-moving body over there.
Yeah.
Well, after August, they work. After August, they actually get back.
We get back to it.
I think there's great momentum right now, and I think we're all dedicated to this, and volunteering our time, and it's important to keep that energy going. You know, I feel very confident about the work getting done. I actually do, and having talked to the architects, and you know, so I don't think it's just a case of being optimistic. You know, I think we've really researched it. Yeah.
So I guess, you know, you were talking about the general contractor and going out to bid and so forth. So, but then I was hearing funding cycle being in August, so would we be making a decision on this prior to the contractors? What's the process? I'm still a little bit confused. Can somebody
Yeah, I don't-
clarify?
Usually we like to see the hard numbers before
Right.
we vote, okay? and we've got one more meeting. Okay, our funding cycle is the next meeting. So, if we get the hard numbers and we got a chance to look at them, I don't have a problem voting next meeting. And I think the only thing missing here is the hard numbers.
Do you have any idea when, you probably know, when you would get more solid numbers from?
Well, the architect has a deadline of mid-next month to have the RFP out to bid, and that will have estimates in it. We do then.
But that would be his estimates, which would be pretty close to.
Right, and then we have, I don't think that the bid will have closed in that amount of time. Just the amount of lead time
Yeah.
for advertising and receiving the bids and awarding the contract, it won't be done, but we should have a good idea. And if the bid comes in way off, then, then we can't do everything. And that's why we're gonna bid it, hopeful that some money will come through and in sections that, where we can take off some things in an organized way, that we don't have a lobby that's fully invaded with no floors.
One door.
Right.
Not two halves, just one half of it.
We're working hard with the architect right now in order to separate it in such a way that with the money we have, we can go forward, and then if additional money becomes available, we can continue in that way.
I think for me, when I'm involved in anything that is, someone's asking for my money, or I'm in a fundraiser or anything, I'm very much an experiential learner. And what I would ask you all to do is just walk into that building and pretend that you don't live here, and just see what's going on, that conflict between that gorgeous exterior. When you walk, once you get past the lobby, you stick your nose in, you see the great artwork that's happening, the performance space. And think about what that says about us and the city, because that's the soul of us. That building is really us, Easthampton. It's Old Town Hall, it has a lot of history, and it's there. So I challenge you just to walk in the building between now and August when you vote, and see what it looks like and what it could look like.
And then also, I want to say that if we ask for this money and we don't need it all, we wouldn't spend it.
Right.
We would obviously, submit, we are going to spend the grant money first, because we already have that. We would submit invoices to you, and if there was extra, we would tell you, say, you know what, the bids came in low, there was no huge unexpected costs. It does happen, I don't,
It's never come in.
I think it's gonna be more.
I do too, and
And,
that's why we're here.
one of the reasons that we like to see it, because we would rather be able to make the request for a larger sum one time than to not be able to complete the project.
And you keep piecemeal it.
Okay, and so if we're looking, what we see in here is numbers that I think the date line was 2011. And we may be low, so it would be good to have some more current numbers. Not to, there's no doubt that the project is a worthy project and the need is there. I think our question is how much is it really gonna cost? And is this really going to be enough? Because anyone who has been experienced with the restoration of National Wannock Pond will know that what was originally thought to be enough years ago, it took a lot more. And the old town hall is the same thing, and I've been involved with this for a number of years, from when we were still living in there, and the city council little office was in there, that we know that this is a long-term project. And so when I look at this, when I look at our balances, and we're talking about having $2 million in the bank next month, I think that this is a good place to put the money.
Right, thank you.
So my question isn't that, well, are we gonna lowball this, but is this gonna be enough money to actually do what needs to be done on the lower floor of that building?
Without making you guys have to come back again.
Yes.
Yeah, we want marble tile in there, not.
We'll get a statue of David, so you can have it.
Ed really wants a statue of himself.
No, as a gold mine.
Right, yeah, exactly. In gold.
No, it doesn't have to. I'll take bronze. Marble would be all right too.
I'm all set.
Good?
All set?
Good?
Yep.
Okay, so numbers as soon as possible.
As soon as we have.
If you hear about the abatement, I'm sure there's gonna be some.
You're right.
Let us know. I know it's super expensive. And we will wait to hear from you guys and then
Okay.
move forward from there.
Thank
Great,
you.
thank you.
And please feel free to
Thanks for coming.
give me a shout or Jamie if you have any
If
questions.
you
at
need
all.
anything sent to the committee, you can send it to me and I can forward it to the committee, or you can forward it, send it to Alexis, and she can forward it to me.
I know where to find you.
I know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
I know, you're talking.
We'll talk.
All right.
They're here to spend the
right.
59 cents we got in open space.
You heard it was 75.
Actually, 52. Are you guys here? We do have a
We
Let's
just took-
Speak section.
Just to whet your appetite for our actual application, which I'll be putting in, so,
Throw it at me,
great.
as long as you don't talk too long.
I'm Marty Klein, I'm a board member of Pascomer Conservation Trust, and you know John Bader, who's president of the trust. We received a grant from Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation. We just got official notification a couple of weeks ago. It's $47,000 that they've given us, and that is going towards construction of a universally accessible trail on a property on East Street that we added to our existing Brickyard Brook conservation area. And you gave us $25,000 to help us with the purchase of that, I believe in 2013. And so we're going to be constructing a state-of-the-art trail that people of all abilities will be able to use. We're going to be making a, I think it's a 6-car parking area on East Street, and then because there's a drop-off, there'll be a ramp that goes down, and then there'll be a loop trail through the field, and there'll be an accessible picnic area. And so we're also going to be having a capital campaign raising money, as well as the money that we hope to get from you for the project. It's about $150,000 total project. And I brought project summaries and location maps, but I only brought 6. So if you wanted to write the email addresses down, I'd be happy to
You give
send
them
them out
to,
to you tonight.
Just
Okay,
give
so
them to
here's
Jamie.
the 6 if you'd like those.
To us.
And
And thank you.
Yeah, maybe a copy it, I'll scan it
Yeah.
and email
Oh, okay, great.
everyone.
Great, thanks, Jamie. As an aside, I worked for the trustees reservations for 2 years, and we just completed, I don't work anymore, but we just completed a UA trail at one of our reservations in Leominster. So if you have any questions, I know the
Actually,
project
I don't know-
manager really
I don't know
well.
if you're aware of it, but U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is building a mile-long universally accessible trail on Moody Bridge Road. They
Okay.
bought, it's Belmar Stables, something like that,
Huh.
stables there.
Brymar.
Brymar
Oh, yeah,
Stables.
okay.
So they bought that property, and it goes through 5 different types of habitats. I was visiting with the project manager last week and looking at it, and that'll be a model for our trail
Great.
in terms of construction.
You guys are gonna you guys maintain all your own trails, so.
Unfortunately, we do.
Well, I think that's fortunate for
Well-
our Parks Department to not have to maintain your
Well,
trails.
yeah, we try to get help when we need it, but
We
John
have,
here is our, yeah, John does a lot of the work. But, you know, we have work parties and we involve the public as much as we can. We have people who act as stewards for some of our properties. So, yeah, we're all about involving the community as much
Great.
as possible.
Do you think you're gonna submit this next month?
I'm working on the application now, so
Fantastic. Okay.
looking forward to discussing it in detail at the September meeting.
Will the 150,000 include the culvert repair? Or is that a separate?
That seems to be a moving target at this point, so,
I'm gonna
it may
guess they're gonna
change,
put the
yeah.
parking lot here.
But the amount that we're asking for you, because we're having a capital campaign to raise some additional monies,
This is the cemetery.
I think that's really contingent
Okay.
on the cost of the culvert repair.
Okay.
Just
That
one
could be
quick.
$1 million.
Let's hope not.
Doesn't look at all.
No, it's
Uh,
way down here.
Did I hear you right, the parking, I know that was a concern when it was first
Yeah.
put in, you said the parking's gonna be on East Street.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's another
That's
way
right.
to access it also, right?
Yes, there is on
East, and,
on Tom
East
Road.
Green Street,
Yeah.
there's access, but the main entrance will be on East Street.
On East Street.
Yeah,
And that's where you're
so
gonna put
we'll
it.
have, you know, a ramp going down and kiosk and, yeah.
Landscaping, and there's 2 culverts in the area that have to be repaired, and we're having problems trying to get that straightened out.
Yeah. But
Okay.
we've faced bigger obstacles in the past, so we're not worried.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We look forward to the application.
Likewise.
Okay. So the only other thing we have is the preservation plan. We talked about it obviously last month at the public hearing, and I don't think there were any,
There was a few minor
Greg had a couple of
changes,
minor
corrections.
additions.
And no one submitted any requests to me from the board saying that they had any
problems.
corrections.
Yeah.
I did get a couple of late additions to the sort of the wish list.
Yep.
Which are in there as well. So the one that's dated July 17th, which is today, is the most up-to-date copy, and if there's nothing more to add to it, then it's just an official acceptance. Or
I didn't have time to look at it. So did any of my suggestions actually make it into
I didn't print it
the
either.
redraft or no?
you had mentioned something about adding the Cottage Street Cultural District as an asset in one section of the plan. And I don't remember what the other thing
No, I'm trying to
was,
remember it too.
but
There was something about the housing, detailing the actual dollar amount maybe for,
Oh, right,
oh,
with
so we talked
AMI.
about that, and because it fluctuates so much,
decided to
we
leave it out.
decided to refer people to HUD.
I'm fine with that. I understand that it would be a number that would continually have to be
Yeah.
updated, so.
But yeah, the Cottage Street Cultural District did get added in.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yes. Other than that, nothing substantial, so we just need to approve it if everybody's okay with that, and then we're good for another year.
Do you need a motion?
Yes, sir.
I'll move to approve the plan.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay.
Who seconded that?
I did.
Thank you, Greg.
Very good.
Tough crowd here. It's just-
I know, really, you guys are so difficult.
Hey, what'd you say?
I think that's it, right? Jamie, did you have anything else?
Just that I was already mentioned by Sparkle, 25 million from the state is possibly in the next budget.
Right.
So that's all I have.
Oh, the one other thing is, I'm having kids, 2 of them twins, so I may be out at some point, and I don't know for sure what that's gonna be like, and so I don't know if we
We'll
should.
cancel October meeting.
That's right. No, we shouldn't. But we needed somebody else to fill in for me if I am not able to make a meeting. So I don't know if we need to vote on that, or if you guys just want to
We'll
handle
wing
it
it.
haphazardly. I really could care less. Do we need to officially have somebody?
I think, I would think that if the committee wants to appoint a vice chair, in Alexis's absence, the vice chair would take on the chairly duties, and when Alexis
The
comes back,
the youngest guy has to be the vice chair.
Because the rest of you guys are going to drop dead.
Whoa. Wow.
I'll talk
I think
to
you're
her
getting set up
about
here.
that. What, you think I'm the youngest?
I
just looks
bet it.
He just lives a good life.
Getting ready to retire.
So, I didn't wait too long before I retired.
All right.
That's when
What are you guys want to do?
I'm gonna pass on that just because
Okay.
I just joined the CPA committee. I'd like to walk around the block a couple times first,
Right.
if that's all right.
Then you never take it.
Okay.
I'll do it if no one else will do it.
Okay.
Come on, Harry. Harry's good.
Harry can do
Harry?
it.
No.
You don't want to participate.
But I mean, you don't know, like, you're gonna be out for next.
I don't think I will. I mean, I'm hoping
You're just
to
saying if
not.
there's problems.
Yeah. just in
Sometime in
case.
October, and what we'll do is, we should plan on canceling the October, maybe the November meeting.
Not if there's
You know,
applications.
by-
We're not canceling.
Or provide babysitting service.
I'll just
One or
bring
the
them
other.
in. hopefully they'll be cool.
They're easy at that
I
stage.
can tell this is
Right?
your first
Yeah.
pregnancy.
Yeah, well, and it's twins, so I'm having 2 of them.
I have
Yeah.
twins.
Do you really?
I do.
Okay.
Good.
Should probably
I can
vote
tell, I can
double
tell you
or
all
farm.
about it. You're not going to be bringing them in.
Actually, one of my coworkers has twins, and she's like, "It's hell. The first year, sure." Great, thanks.
Getting any sleep?
All right,
You
good.
should probably have a vote, maybe just to make it official.
Yes. Everybody okay with Dan taking over as vice chair if I'm not able to make the meeting?
Yes.
Thank you.
No.
All right, Jay, you want to
Sure.
nail the camera?
Motion to adjourn?
Thank you.
Second.
Good. Done.
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, guys.
All right.